Hey guys, can you imagine being a successful small business owner, basically a Pilates instructor to be specific, and then you get into real estate and you get into it as a lender? A great way to make passive income. That's not the path that most people have. Go from Pilates instructor to being a real estate investor. So today we have Miss Susan in the studio. So Miss Susan, welcome.
Thank you, Andrew.
So Miss Susan, where did the journey start, right? I know you today, you're a friend, but where did that journey start? Like, how did you exactly, were you always a Pilates instructor?
No, I was in the corporate world. I bought steel for my districts,
Okay.
and it was a corporate scene. I was in a cubicle, just like many people are.
Okay.
And I decided to get married, and I had kids, so I stayed home. But I had to do something, so I got into the fitness world. And my instructor that I took classes from said I would be great at it, and that was my journey into the fitness world. I found Pilates and then decided to open my own studio.
Okay.
And then I meet all these cool people. And these people, one of them in particular, Amy, who's in your mastery class, she was doing real estate, and she was telling me about it, and I was fascinated with it.
Okay, so let's just back up a little
Yes.
bit, right? So you're kind of working, you have a corporate job, right? At some point, obviously, you get married, you have kids, the typical thing, right? Everybody
Yes.
does. At that time, when you were married, right, were you and your husband both thinking about real estate? Was there ever, even in the back of your mind?
You know what? It's funny because he owned 2 4-flats in the city.
Okay.
And so the real estate was kind of always in the background, but it wasn't a growing thing. It's that he got those when he was young, and that's all he was going to have was the 2 4-flats.
Yeah. I mean, somebody looks at you or somebody meets you, you're this vivacious woman, you know, they're like, yeah, no, I mean, that's just who you are. That's your personality. You're, Miss Queen Bee Fitness, right? I mean, that's just what everybody will, think, oh my God, this woman is great shape. She has all this energy. And clearly it's from your lifestyle, the work you do, that sort of thing. Real estate, right, doesn't kind of pop out as,
No. Yeah.
Susan wouldn't be the image of real estate, right?
Exactly. No, not at all. But yes, go ahead.
So let me ask you this, right? How old are your kids at this point?
20, well, I have 2 older ones that are married. They're in their 30s. And then the second batch is 24, 22, and 18.
Okay, so you have 5 kids?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so you're teaching Pilates, right? Have you ever invested in real estate before, personally?
No, never.
Because, I mean, at this point, it's you, right?
Yes, yes.
You're single, right?
Yes.
It's not because your husband was into it or anything, right? So
No.
you're doing this. And then did Amy try to basically kind of tell you, hey, I'm doing this, blah, blah, or was it just people you're friends with, kind of the conversation comes up?
Yeah, it was just regular chit chat because when you're doing one-on-one, you're talking about their personal life, you're getting
Sure.
to know them. And
Okay.
so she told me about that, and I was fascinated. I thought, she's clearly a badass. This is so cool.
So, for people who don't know Amy, right, what does exactly Amy do, work-wise?
She's a compliance officer for a corporation.
Oh, so pretty
Yeah.
boring job.
Yeah.
Right, okay. No, and
Some.
it happens to be Amy comes to Mastery, right?
Yes.
She's buying all these rental properties, right? And you, at that time, I didn't know you, obviously, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay, so a client of yours says, hey, I'm investing in real estate, right? Were you always like this open about, oh my God, real estate investing? Oh, this is what I'm going to do.
No.
What was your mindset at that time? Because today this is just natural, right?
Right,
For
yes,
you. But
yes.
Roll back the clock. What was it? 3 years ago?
Yeah, it was 3 years. It was 3 years ago.
3 years
Yeah.
ago, it wasn't as natural.
Not at all. It wasn't.
So
no.
how was that transition?
Well, it was, it's quite interesting because when she and I were talking, she was talking at the time about joining this group, but what she was talking about the price, and I said, you will never regret investing in your education.
Okay.
I said, you should do that. And then she did it, and then she was so thrilled with it. She started talking to me about it, and then she was getting a deal, and she said, would you be able to fund one of my deals?
Okay.
And I said, yeah, I'd be more than happy to, and she was going to pay me 10%. And I was like, that's more than I'm making in the stock market.
Right.
And I loved her. And I'm like, yeah, I want to be a part of it. It would give me a little bit of being on the peripheral of her being this cool, you know?
Got it.
Yeah.
So you're looking at it as an opportunity to kind of participate, yet,
Yes.
kind of dip your toes and not. So did you ever even think that lending, as we know it today, right, It's a business, right?
It
I mean,
is.
you can lend out of your IRA,
Yes.
right, and get a humongous return.
Yes.
Right? I mean, we're talking some sizable numbers, and we'll get into that here in a couple of minutes. But that this could actually be a legitimate source of income.
Huge legitimate, like way legit.
Yeah.
It's really.
Did you ever think about that at that point?
No, I thought, well, I'll just, help Amy out.
Okay.
And then she talked me into coming to the 3-day, not talked me into, she bought a ticket, and I
Right.
went, and then that's when I saw you on stage, and I was, then, again, the clouds opened up, the sun shone
You
through.
show up at the 3-day, right?
Yes.
And if anybody has been around us, right, at times we'll talk about flips, we'll talk about wholesales, but really, right, what I'm passionate about is that people should own good quality rental properties,
Yes.
have them paid off over a period of 5, 7 years, 8 years, and be debt free and just have income forever. Did that concept make sense to you?
It made perfect sense to me.
Okay.
And it's funny because I was going in that route right after I took mastery.
Okay.
Went and looked at a bunch of properties, put a bid in on a couple and a short sale that just didn't come through. And in the interim, people needed loans. And you even came to me with some people who were new in mastery as well. Hey, do you have money for this individual? I said, absolutely.
Okay.
And so it naturally happened that I became a private money lender.
Okay, got it. So a lot of people are wondering, right? Because a lot of people will listen to this. They're like, oh my God, Susan must have buku amount of dollars, right? I mean, did you win a lottery? You have a money tree in your backyard. Where does the money come from? I mean, because a lot of times people are like, well, but Andrew, I don't have that kind of money. And
exactly.
So,
yeah. So no, I didn't have a ton of money, but I had been very lucky in the stock market when the economy was good.
Right.
And then I rode that wave when it came back up. And then when I got into mastery, I saw that, over that amount of time, I was making, 7 to 9%. And in mastery, you could make points in a higher percentage rate.
Right.
And so I thought, well, I'm going to take half of this out and I'm going to try this.
Right.
And it was so good and so successful.
So I want you to kind of dial that back a little
Okay.
bit, right? So I brought up the kids issue. I brought up the, and I mean, if you guys are watching this on video or if you're listening to Susan, right? Susan is very, very young. But Susan is so young that she has kids that are almost 30 years old.
Yes, they're
right?
30.
So just I want to be careful here choosing my words. But I mean, right? So clearly she had a career. She worked, right? And gradually she put some money away. And we're not talking about, when we talk about private lending, right? We're talking about somebody who's putting 60, 70,000, 80,000 over a course of time, right? This is
Yes.
not like hundreds of thousands of dollars, right?
Exactly.
And at some point, 20 years down the road, it's whatever 100, 150 was put in, maybe it's grown to 200, 250.
Yes.
Right? That's really what we're talking about. I want to put that in perspective, but I want to kind of get people to understand how much this really can be, what sort of income this can be, right?
Oh, yeah.
So at this point, right, you come to mastery, you hear all these thoughts. You're like, well, I'm going to do rentals, right? You start putting in some offers. In the meantime, you're like, hey, I have a wonderful opportunity where I can do some loans to people, right? I can basically do a loan, get my money recycled back, and then do another loan.
Yes.
So generally, to get into it, right, how many times do you try to cycle your money a year, ideally for you?
Well, 4 times I try.
Okay, you
Yeah.
try 4 times.
I try to cycle that number that I've just given to someone. Well,
So,
let's maybe 3
Three
times.
times.
3
Three times is
yes.
more realistic. Okay.
Yes, 3.
So basically, you're doing short-term loans,
Yes.
4-month loans,
Yes.
right? And let's say 100,000, and you're doing small loans, right? On small properties, you're not doing because we don't promote big properties. We promote good bread and butter houses, especially for rentals, right?
Exactly.
Even if people are doing flips, they're doing 150, 160,000 flips, right? Nothing big, nothing
Yeah.
fancy. So you're lending out $100,000. When you lend out $100,000 for you, because
Yes.
this is going to be lender specific, right? What do you generally charge?
12% and 2 points.
Okay, so let's explain that, right? What do you mean by 2 points? Because somebody listening to this, they may not understand how it works, right?
Yes.
So let's say 100,000 you lent out,
Yes.
right? To Amy, what does 2 points mean?
That means 1% of the total loan. So
Okay.
1% would be 1,000, and
Right.
and 2 points would be another percentage, and that's 2,000.
Right. So this is important, guys. As we are talking, think about this, right? You have, let's just say, some IRA funds. You basically are borrowing for 2 points, meaning you are borrowing $100,000, you're paying $2,000 to
Yes.
borrow the money, and then you're paying 12%. A lot of times people will hear this and they're like, oh my God, I would never borrow the money for that higher number.
Right.
And think about this, right? You're buying a property which is highly distressed. You need money for buying the property. You need money for some work in the property. And someone like Susan, as long as the property makes sense, that's the important thing. The numbers have to make sense,
Yes.
right? That's the most important thing. As long as the property makes sense, someone like Susan is willing to do the loan for you immediately. So let's go through, like, say, a property for Amy that you've done, right? She did a property, suburbs of Chicago, that she borrowed about $100,000 from you, purchase plus rehab
Yes.
funds. So you basically charged her 2 points, that'd be $2,000.
Exactly.
Right? What is the term of the typical loan?
4 months typically.
Typically
Yes.
4 months. Okay.
Yes, and I will write in my paperwork, it can be extended to 6 months, and after 4 months, there's another 2 points. And the reason that I do that is because there's somebody else in line that needs the money. And if I don't have that money available, then I miss out on other points. So that's why the private money lender will say, I'm going to charge another 2 points, because in essence, they might miss out on that.
Okay, so let me just break that down, because some people, so think about this, right? Imagine you made a loan January 1st, right? From your IRA. What happens with the IRA funds, right? You're basically making a loan from your IRA funds to somebody. All the interest, all the points goes back to your IRA, right? Guys, this is tax-free. Money is growing this way. Now, we'll talk about kind of the qualifications, the things that she looks for, how she vets people. But think about this. She's turning that same money 3 times, right? A year, 4-month loans. So she gets 2 points. Every month she's collecting 1%. So for Amy, her friend that borrowed the money from her, cost her $2,000 at the front end. And then each month she paid 1,000, 4 times.
Yes.
So what was the total cost of the loan? $6,000.
Exactly.
Right? She's happy because she buys the property. So for Amy, typically, if she's buying the property, purchase plus rehab, about $110,000, what is the property worth when it's all said and done?
About 160.
About 160.
Yes.
Imagine that, right? You're basically borrowing somebody else's money, in this case Susan's money, as a private money lender, and you bought the property somewhere around 80, 90. You did some work with Susan's money, and now the property is worth 160, right? Now, a lot of people are keeping these properties for phenomenal rentals. They're just refinancing, paying Miss Susan back, saying thank you very much, and boom, doing the process over again.
Exactly.
Right? And
yes.
you get to lend that money over again.
Yes.
Right? And so if you do 3 of these cycles, right, a
Yes.
year, what is that in terms of interest rate to you?
Well, that's going to be the amount of money.
Right.
Right.
Total amount of money on 100,000 left.
Yeah. So let's just say that's 6 times 3 is 18 grand.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
18%.
Yeah.
Right? So that's 18% return. Now, that sounds unbelievable, Ms. Susan, right? If somebody hears
kinda
this,
does.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, today, if you dial the clock back, right, you go back. And there's this guy that you show up at this event and saying, you know, if you really understand this, right? If you understand how to analyze risk, you understand who you're lending to, because that's important.
Yes.
You can't just willy-nilly lend to anybody.
Exactly.
Right? That you can make an obscene amount of money. I mean, by any standards, that is a obscene return.
Yeah.
Would you have believed it at that time?
No, I wouldn't have. And you know what? It was that I got the feel and just, I don't know if it was just that intuition or just that knowing that I knew that this was going to be good if I just followed your process.
Okay, and you said something very critical, right? You may seem like this person who's all over the place, but you're not. You're
No.
actually pretty. No, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just you come across as, oh my God, she's just happy, right?
Yes.
This is just who you are. But you tend to be very analytical,
Yes.
right? I mean, you're not the type of person who is just believe people. I mean, it's just not your personality.
Right.
And so you do your homework, and you said something very critical early on, which was, you know, Andrew, I first made one loan to my friend. That worked out.
Yes.
And then I took half the money
Yes.
You didn't go and just empty out your bank account.
No.
Why not? Explain that process.
Well, I had to test the waters, and I had
Okay.
to build my confidence level that this really worked. Because, like you said, it wasn't that just right out of the gate. I'm just like handing, oh, here's all my money.
Right.
You know.
Right. Because
And-
this is your life savings. This is not a joke, right?
Exactly. And although you very politely called me young, I am at that age where it's not. I'm thinking about retirement.
Right.
Not working for the rest of
Right.
my life. So I didn't want to blow that. That's my retirement.
Right.
You know.
Right. I mean, so because that is something that is just, I mean, that's just the truth, right?
Yes.
That doesn't matter how much you keep yourself, in great shape and all that kind of stuff. At some point, at least, in terms of age, you're getting closer. Let's just put it that way, right? So, with the women listening, have to be careful here. So you start kind of doing 1 or 2 loans, right? And you're starting to build this confidence, right?
Yes.
And you said something, we all went, right, hiking. We're all in Tennessee hiking. I mean, it was the funniest thing that you state, because I found it so amusing because I just take it for granted. Maybe I'm like, that's how it works, right? And you said something. You said, every single month, Andrew, I'm lending out 100,000 and I'm doing 3, so 300,000 basically at that time. You may be doing more now, I don't know. But what was your statement? You remember what you said?
Yeah, I'm like, I just sit back and make $3,000 a month.
Every month, right? And this is just from interest.
Yes.
That doesn't account for the points that you're making on top of it.
Exactly.
Right? Guys, think about that, right? If you're lending out $100,000, you're lending it out 3 times. That's 2 points each time. So that's 6%. On top of that, it's 1% a month. That's an 18% return. 18,
Yes.
right? And the key to this, right? It sounds very great. So if you're lending out literally $100,000, I'm not going to mention, I'm sorry, $300,000. I mean, 18 times 3. I mean, you do the math, right? I mean, you're making $50,000, $60,000 just purely on interest. I know people that have $1 million, $2 million savings, they don't get that kind of return on their money, right? Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty of it, right? Because this is right where the rubber meets the road. Somebody's going to hear this, they're like, oh my God, Andrew and this, I don't know who this lady is, Susan, they came on and they're like, oh wow, this is possible. I'm going to go give out money to somebody because they decided they're going to do flip this house type of a thing, right?
Yeah.
And how do you vet the people?
Okay, I've not once lent any money to anyone outside of Mastery. Because,
No, forget about Mastery for now.
Well,
for right now.
Okay.
For a second, right? Let's just go through the steps, right? Within Mastery, obviously, we have a huge group of people at this point, right? But we put people through a system.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Put people through a system. So let's say somebody, that's a friend of yours, right? That has done a few flips. Let's just assume that, right? For a second. And they say, hey, Miss Susan, I know you're doing all this lending, and would you possibly consider lending to me?
Yes.
Right? Let's just put Mastery aside for a second. How would you look at that person in terms of analysis if you were to lend?
Well, I'd have to look at their experience, right?
Okay.
And then I'd have to ask them to go through the system. I'd be like, okay, well, where's the property?
Okay.
You have to give me all the specifics. Where's your 1-pager? Where's your 3-pager?
Okay. So what does the 1-pager, because somebody listening to this may not understand that.
Right.
Right? What does that entail? I mean, that's a process we put everybody through in Mastery, right? Because we want them to be safe. So what is that process?
Well, it's a sheet that will take the address, all the pertinent information of the house. Like, are they going to have it as a buy and hold? Are they going to flip it? Are they going to wholesale it, which wouldn't entail me, right, at all? And then they have to write down, like, are they going to turn it into from a 2-bedroom, 1-bath to maybe a 3-bedroom, 1-bath?
How are they going to increase value?
Exactly.
Right?
How
I mean,
are they
that's
exactly.
really, okay. So let's just say, right, so we go through the process of what is the property?
Yes.
What are you going to do to it?
Yes.
Then what are the numbers?
Exactly.
And are these numbers realistic?
Yes.
How are you supporting the numbers? Right?
Exactly.
Obviously, if you have done this before, makes your life much easier.
Yes.
Hey, I already have done this 5 times. But let's just say if somebody's new, right, and they filled out the sheet, right? You feel, oh my God, yes, this is a good property, right? The property makes sense. And things line up. They went to the lender, like the back-end lender. They've gotten themselves approved. They've done all those things. Do you consider those things whenever you as a lender look at somebody? Do you look at that, go, oh my God, this person did their homework?
Yes.
Is that something that counts in your books?
Yeah, it counts big time.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't just call me up and be like, I want your money, can you do this? And then not give me any information.
So, because a lot of times, right, a lot of times when people are listening to something like this, they're like, oh, this is all well and great, but how do I even talk to somebody like Miss Susan? Right? They think that this is like some special thing.
Yeah.
Right? But there is millions and millions of people like you,
exactly.
right? That would love to get a great return,
yes,
right? But a lot of times, people who are just getting started in real estate, it's very intimidating.
It is,
right? Even today, whenever we have you on stage, so many times you've come and talked about it, and then people come running, right?
Yes.
What would you say to people who are just listening to this? May not even be a part of mastery, right? What would you say to them is, what is an approach? Right? Was there some special approach that your friend took? What was the approach she had?
Well, the approach is reaching out and saying, you know, I've met you in Mastery, and I have a property, and I've run through all the numbers, and I'm going to email that to you and give you all the information. And I've also presented this offer and this contract that they have.
Hold on. So I want to stop you here, right?
Okay.
So what you're saying is, even if people want to, approach you or talk to someone like you, right? Because we have so many lenders, right? In general, that maybe the process should start before, right? A little bit before that. Hey, I'm doing this. These are the properties I'm looking at. Maybe start talking, because this happens to a lot of times. People will call up the lender a day before closing, 5 days before. They just got the property. It's like, guys, take a little bit of time and start building a little bit of rapport.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Because it will make your life a lot easier. Now you're not just going to somebody off the street. Oh yeah, hey, can you give me $100,000? How do you think they're going to take you seriously? Right?
That's very true.
Right.
Yes.
And it's really, really important, because think about this, and this is something that probably, Ms. Susan, you can relate to, right? All our friends know us as somebody. Right?
Yes.
Probably if I was Miss Susan's friend outside of real estate, I would know her as Miss Fitness. Right?
Exactly.
I mean, hey, Susan is always fit. She's always talking about health. You know, she instructs you. That's what I would see her as. I don't see her as a real estate, quote unquote, private money lender.
Right.
Because I know Miss Susan as Queen Bee, of fitness. And this is important. And we all have our friends in our minds categorized a certain way. Suddenly, they come and start talking about real estate investing. I'd be like, what the heck happened to you?
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Did you drink a Kool-Aid somewhere? You must have gone to one of those motivational seminars, right?
Yes.
And you have to take the time to start building that rapport with people.
Yes.
That is important.
It does help.
Right?
And that's what helped me get into it, was because I had that rapport with Amy.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, good. So then, whenever people bring you all these deals, right, do you go, at this point, do you go look at these properties? What do you do?
I have gone and looked at a lot of the properties.
Okay.
And so oftentimes I do have a full-time job, so I might not have the opportunity to go see the property. So
And
the
your
pictures,
job is?
Pilates instructor.
Okay.
Yes.
So because,
yes.
I mean, and this is something, you're not just doing it willy-nilly.
No.
I mean, this is
a
your
business.
job. This is a
I own
business.
the studio.
Okay,
yeah.
got it. Yeah.
Exactly.
So this is not just like somebody teaching 2 Pilates classes.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. So it's not like you're not busy. You're busy. You have
Yes.
a full schedule. You're doing this on the side.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
So you're doing this on top of what you're doing, and then. So you did go look at a lot of these properties?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah, I love that part. I love looking at properties. So that's, if you like real estate at all, you get to have a little flavor of it without being in totally, if you have a full-time job that keeps you busy.
Got it. And then what are you looking for?
I'm looking to see, like how, is there, you taught in Mastery, what's this conduit? What is there a crack in the foundation? Is the house leaning? Is it viable, right?
So you're trying to verify, has the investor done their homework?
Exactly.
Are they telling me what it is? And you, as somebody who's going to lend on the property, it's your hard-earned money.
Yes.
So you're doing your research.
Yes.
Right? And you're basically making sure, yeah, this makes sense, and yes, all the numbers come together, really.
Absolutely.
So with the typical borrower that you have, right? I mean, you have obviously kind of developed a group of people that you do. Are there people who just keep coming back?
Yes, there
Okay.
are, yes. And then I get new ones too.
Right.
When there's a new mastery group that comes
Right.
through and they need to feel that confidence in building a rapport with someone. So I do have that, and I do enjoy that when they reach out and we establish that friendship and that relationship that
Got
you were
it.
speaking of.
Got it. So in terms of, like, with a lot of people that you have a rapport with, maybe they've done 2 or 3 loans, there's a bunch of people like that, right? They've already done a bunch of business with you. Does that kind of give you confidence? Okay, I know these people.
Yes.
I don't have to kind of worry about as much, and they're going to do what they said they're going to do.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
So let's talk about this, because this is the good part, right? Let's talk about, has there ever been anything that has gone wrong?
No, nothing has gone wrong ever.
Okay. Have there people been a little bit late in terms of maybe the refi didn't come through on time, that where you had to maybe give them a little bit of an extension, that sort of thing?
Yeah, that might happen. You know, but you just take those little occurrences. That's like nothing.
That's course of doing business.
Exactly.
Because every time somebody does an extension, what happens?
You get 2 points.
You get 2 points, right?
Right.
So it's not so bad.
Right.
Right? Because this is a business, guys, right? This is a business that, now, when you look at it this way today, right? I mean, last I know, you were putting out $200,000-$300,000 at a time, right? I mean, and that's a good chunk of change.
It is good.
Right? Where you're making a good interest rate. I mean, and we know people in Mastery, and it was kind of funny because somebody called me, they're like, Andrew, last year I made so much money that I'm going to have to have quite a bit of tax consequence, because this was not out of their IRA. This was savings that they were.
Yes.
I'm like, yeah, probably. They're like, man, this is like having a job that I have to actually. I'm like, well, you're making $150,000 from, that's income.
Right,
exactly. I mean,
exactly.
you're going to have to pay some taxes, but it's not bad. They're like, no, we're not complaining. We're just saying that we're going to have to pay taxes. I'm like, yeah, no kidding.
Right.
But I'm like, you made an interest, right?
Yeah.
So do you see yourself keep on the lending side of things, or are you going to buy properties, some rental properties also?
I am moving in that direction.
Okay.
And so
How so?
Well, I work with these people that are using my money, and I see and build a relationship with them. And in this current particular time of COVID, we thought, well, and the market is hot, so I'm establishing some partnerships to flip.
To do flips.
Yes,
right?
to do
so
flips.
where you're doing, maybe providing the funds part of it, somebody else is bringing you a deal.
Yes.
Right? They're going to do the rehab, and so you're kind of doing a little bit of it is a partnership, but you're saying, hey, listen, I want to make sure my money is safe.
Yes.
But I don't mind maybe giving you a little bit of a break on the lending side.
Yeah.
But then give me a little bit more on the.
That's exactly what it is, and what I particularly would agree to, because I want it to be a win for them.
Right.
So I say no points, no interest, and we just split the deal.
Right.
And I'll play whatever role you want me to. If you need me to go get permits, I will. If you want me to stay out of the way because that's easier for you, then I will.
Okay.
Right.
Got it. So now you're kind of participating on as a partner rather than just a lender.
Exactly.
Right? So how long have you been now kind of in this whole thing? I mean, you showed up to us
2 years
like
ago.
to Mastery 2 years ago.
Yes.
It's just been 2 years?
It's just been 2
Oh, wow.
years. Can you believe that?
It just seems like I've known you for a long time. So in 2 years, how many loans have you done so far?
I think it's 27.
You've done 27 loans.
Yes.
Holy cow.
Well,
Man,
I
this is
went in,
good.
I got a HELOC.
Oh, explain that. Explain.
Okay, yes.
Because yesterday, we had another interview with Miss Sharon, Miss Sharon Beckold,
Yes,
right?
yes.
She was talking about that exact same
Okay.
thing, right? So explain what you did, because that's fascinating.
Yeah,
right?
well, I had a HELOC sitting there that I never ever touched, and I had it, for business purposes. And I thought, well, gosh, I have loaned out all my money, and my free and clear money, so I have this HELOC that might have been at the time at like 4%.
Right.
And I'm like, well, I'm making 12, so it only makes sense.
No, you're not making 12.
Well, more than that, right?
Yeah, you're making
but
18.
Yeah, 18. So
Okay.
then you lend this out, and you just pay, and that's a write-off, right? Your
right.
interest is a write-off. And so then I could help more people, and I was still making.
So guys, think about this, right? To explain this, she's collecting 18 for the year, and she's paying out 4, right? So the delta,
Yes.
right, in between is pretty darn sweet, right?
It is.
It's a 14% delta. And somebody that's listening to this, somebody says, oh my God, isn't there risk? Guys, listen, there is risk crossing the road, right?
Yes, absolutely.
You drove here, I drove here. There's no such thing. If you're alive, there is risk,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Only time there's no risk is once you're dead, right?
Exactly.
You're dead and 6 feet under.
Right. You might as well
all
have
the
fun in
risk is
between.
gone. Right. I mean, but you gained confidence. You started with one, then you started with another, and you've built this. This is not like
No,
you just
it's been a
decide to
process.
willy-nilly.
Yeah.
So what kind of money did you have in your HELOC that you started lending?
Well, I started with 100, and then I loved it so much that I applied for another one, and I got 300.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, so okay. That is beautiful, right? And so you're basically just kind of now playing with banks' money.
Yes.
Plus lending your money.
Yes.
Wow.
And then I just got money back from a hedge fund that I was in, and it came back, but that was IRA money.
Okay.
So now it's in my IRA. Now I have IRA money to lend.
Okay, got it.
So now I can do all of those things: my own personal money, the HELOC, and the
So that actually prompts an interesting question, right? Let's just say, suppose, I'm not me, I'm somebody else, right? And I come to you saying, oh my God, Miss Susan, I heard this interview you did, and I'm going to do this flip, $300,000 flip, and I'm going to dump 150 into it. Would you be my lender?
Well, I'd have to say.
No, honest answer. I don't want you to, just because I'm asking you on the spot.
No.
I want you to be honest answer. I'm asking that question for a reason. What's your first instinct?
My first instinct is like, whoa, I have to find out about this person.
Okay.
Right?
But
I have to find out the numbers.
Okay, your first instinct, as far as I'm concerned, should be no.
Should be no.
Should be no. Right?
Okay.
If you're around us, of all people, Miss Susan.
Well, is this a random person off the street?
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesnn't matter.
Okay.
And I'm trying to prove a point.
Okay.
I'm trying to get to a point here. This is kind of unique with how I think. My way of thinking is simple. If I'm a lender, right, let's just say, I'm hypothetically, you have 300,000 your savings, you have 300,000 from HELOC, you have 300,000 that just came back from your IRA.
Yeah.
I'm $900,000. Why the heck would I give one person 350 or 400? Why would I do that? I don't care how much I like them. Right? I don't care. That's not the point. I'm going to give that money to 9 different people that I like.
Yes.
Because why? My statistical odds of success are much better with 8 or 9 or 10 vetted people.
Yes.
Because now my money is distributed. Guys, today we're not talking about this as a real estate investor on the borrowing side of it. We're thinking about it from the lender side of it, right? Yeah. And that's why I wanted to have her on, because it's important to think about this. That if you want to be somebody that wants to lend out money, that wants to get an extraordinary great rate, you should be lending to people that are safe.
Absolutely.
As can be.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so we don't like it. I don't like it if people within Mastery even are doing loans. I'm like, hey, listen, you're doing a big flip, no problem, right? Go ahead and borrow money from an institution. Go borrow money from a fund. Go borrow money from Chicago Funding. Go borrow money from a bigger institution. Keep your private money lenders for the refis. Why? Because the turns are quicker.
Yes.
And your money is safer on a refi than it is on a flip.
Right, exactly. So right now, there's a little window where everything's doing really well in the market.
Right.
And
4 flips we're talking about.
Four flips,
right.
4 in general.
Right.
And I did become a realtor. So
right.
I also do meetings on that side to find out like what the economists say about the economy and
sure.
how long it might last.
Sure.
So that gives me a little insight as well.
Right. So, I mean, and this is kind of great because this is where it's important to understand. Her full-time job, and I pick on her, but I mean, this is a serious thing. Her full-time job is a Pilates instructor. That can be an engineer, that can be whatever, it doesn't really matter, right? Her side hobby, which has grown into a business, is lending funds, right?
Yes.
And she has expanded that. And then on top of that, she's like, why not? I understand real estate now. I'm going to go out, get my license also, so I can sell houses also.
Yes.
And kind of enjoy the benefits of the whole thing.
Yes.
Right? I mean, it makes perfect sense, as if she wasn't busy to begin with,
right.
to have your hands in all these things. So for anybody listening, right, what would you say to them? Is there opportunity today in the real estate business?
Huge opportunity. It just fascinates me to see how many avenues there are. The more I stay in it, the more I see. Right? So
somebody like you, this is a question for me. You can go into, at this point, legitimately, you can be at least a kind of a limited member of a big apartment building, right? Of a big, exciting stuff. And here you are lending money on small little houses. Why?
The reason that it got me was because your investors find a house that's in disrepair, and they make it look beautiful, and then a new family gets to move into this thing, and they get to make their memories, that's a win for them. It's a win for me as a private money lender, and then it's a win for the investor. So if you're getting a win-win-win, isn't that what life is all about? It's not.
No, but why not do more exciting things?
I
How
think
about
that-
basically buying, a big multi-unit building? You could be a part of a 500-unit development. Does that not excite you?
It doesn't excite me any more than this.
Okay.
Not at all. I like this. I think it's families, homes and families, they just kind of go together.
I'm teeing up this question for you.
Okay.
Right?
Uh-oh.
No, I am. I'm trying to tee up this question for you, and you're just not
I'm not biting.
You're not biting the bait, right? What I'm trying to get
is to
her
say that, yes, you could do this.
You could do bigger things, right? She could absolutely, somebody like her could do bigger things, right? And do very exciting things. But guys, think about this, right? Why do big things if you can do small things and your risk is much lower, right? Your risk is much lower with a small little property, basic $120,000 property, $130,000. I mean, hopefully this never happens to her, right? But let's just say she has to take a house back. Person can't pay, some reason they get stuck, they spend too much money, something goes wrong. As long as she has done her homework as a lender, vetted the person correctly, she put out $80,000-$90,000 for purchase, another $20,000 for rehab. Okay, it went $10,000 over. And they're like, Ms. Susan, really, we can't do anything. Guess what? Tomorrow, she can sell the property. She can keep the property. It'll still make sense.
Yes.
Right? The exit strategy, you are in control.
Yes.
Whereas when you go into something bigger,
Yeah.
right, it may seem very exciting.
Right.
But guess what happens to control?
Gone, out the window.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's a big thing to think about. A lot of times that it can be very exciting, but my belief has always been is this, that do small, non-exciting, boring things that have a lot of security, make a lot of money, and then take a little bit of that money and then go, you want to gamble, go to Vegas, right? You want to gamble, go do exciting things. But don't do exciting things with the money that is for your future.
Right, exactly.
So
Very
in your
important.
case, you could take $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 and go participate in something. Okay, it doesn't work out, But you can't do that with $200,000, $300,000.
No.
Right? There's too much risk associated
Way.
with it. So,
Yeah.
Ms. Susan,
Yes.
it's been great. Any thoughts you want to share as we wrap up?
I just think there's plenty of opportunities out there. If you're on the fence or you're interested at all, check it out because the opportunities for you to grow and expand and learn are huge.
So guys, this is Andrew. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. It was all about a different way, which is even as a lender, instead of being the borrower, instead of doing flips, instead of doing rentals, trying to do wholesales, she came at it from the other side. Yet, if you look at her net returns, they're absolutely astronomical. And now she's saying, hey, I don't want to be just a lender. Why don't I participate in deals? And I'm not doing the work. Somebody else is doing the work. Yet, I'm willing to put my money in.
Yes.
So having said that, this is Andrew Holmes. I'm here with Ms. Susan. Ms. Susan, thank you.
Thank you,
And
Andrew.
again, please like us, share us with your friends. And it's 257cashflow.com. That's 257cashflow.com is the website. You can always connect with us. Thanks so much, guys, and have a good day.
Bye.